Continued. Page number 21. Understanding sympathy with the seamy side of life, his keen sense of the ludicrous, which made him alive to any incongruity or absurdity, his genial temperament, which made him observe with amused delight and half-shut eyes the frailties and foibles of mankind, all these made him a great humorist. In his humour, envenomed, envenomed, shafts of ridicule or cynical sneer or biting sarcasm, characteristic of Voltaire or Swift, do not generally exist. His vivacious fancy and playful imagination could raise bubbles of fun out of unexpected places. It brightens whatever he touches. His good and genial humour is all-pervasive. This geniality separates Chaucer from such later humorists as Addison and Jane Austen, who, though never savage, can be politely cruel. Cruelty and Chaucer are absolute strangers. Every object was viewed by him with humour. Every object he saw in life, whether serious or comic, could provoke ripples of laughter and bring gentle smile on his lips. Chaucer's humour is of the finest type. It bears a close similarity to Shakespeare's humour. Like Shakespeare's humour, it is marked with the freshness of outlook, charity, tolerance and forgiveness. There is the tone of sympathy for its victim. Boccaccio's humour hurts, but Chaucer's humour is always tinged with a sense of pity for the foibles of mankind. In the Canterbury Tales, the weaknesses of human life are presented merrily, but never with the lash of bantering satirist. End of page number 21. Now page number 22. Chaucer never leaves the vices of his fellowmen. Chaucer never lashes the vices of his fellowmen. There is honourable laughter resounding on the sides. The storytellers and the author enjoy the laugh in a hearty manner. There is not the laughter of disdain or malice, but the subtle, silent laughter which is born out of recognition of human frailties and the curious deviations which they cause in human life. Even the pardoner and the summoner and the wife of Bath, in spite of their frailties, are treated in a genial and gentle manner. There is no mortal indignation of Langland in viewing their lapses. Humour takes many forms in literature. It can be used both in a broad and a limited sense. In the narrow sense, it means a little jolly, good-natured mirth, mirth, mirth. In its broader sense, it stands for boisterous humour, fun, intellectual humour, wit, gentle or mirthful humour, and bitter humour, satire. Chaucer's works reflects all these forms and shades of humour. His is the kaleidoscopic humour, regaling both in horseplay and gentle smile, in caricature and mild satire. E. Albert has beautifully referred to the many-sided humour of Chaucer. In the literature of his time, quote, in the literature of his time, when so few poets seem to have any perception of the fun in life, the humour of Chaucer is invigorating and delightful. The humour which steeps nearly all his poetry has great variety, kindly and patronizing, as in the case of the Clerk of Oxford, broad and semi-farcical, as in the Wife of Bath, pointedly satirical as in The Pardoner and the Summoner, or coarse as happens in the tales of the Miller, the Reeve and the Pardoner. It is seldom that the satirical intent is wholly lacking, as it is in the case of The Good Parson, but except in rare cases the satire is good-humoured and well-meant. The prevailing feature of Chaucer's humour is its urbanity. The man of the world's kindly tolerance of the weaknesses of his erring fellow mortals. Indeed, for all his considerable powers of pathos, says Crompton Rickett, this happy fancy, his lucid imagination, it is as a great humorist that he lingers longest in our memories, with humour rich, profound and sane, devoid of spite and cynicism, irradiated by a genial kindliness and a consummate knowledge of the human nature. Chaucer's humour is all-pervading and all-pervasive. In the plays of Shakespeare, humour is not only limited to comedy, but equally well colours his tragedies. The porter scene in Macbeth and the gravedigger scene in Hamlet are examples of Shakespearean humour in tragedy. Chaucer's humour is also all-pervasive. Crompton Rickett remarks about this aspect of Chaucer's humour. There are tragedies as well as comedies in the tales. Some are grave and subdued, others ablaze with colour and merriment. But the thread of honest and kindly laughter runs through them all, serious and gay-like. Chaucer raises humour at his own cost, as at the cost of his pilgrims. He spares not even himself, and cracks many a jest at his own expense. He refers to himself as a simple, unlettered man. My wit is short, he may well understand. He takes delight in raising a gentle smile at himself when he speaks of his fancied shortcomings and poverty in a simpering tone. He has given a humorous description himself in the prologue to the tale of Sir Thopas. Similar humorous references to himself occur in the House of Fame and the prologue to the Legend of Good Women. In the House of Fame, he dreams that he is carried up to heaven by an eagle. In mid-air, he speculates on the reason for his sudden seizure, and the dialogue between him and the poet and the golden eagle, which conveys him to the House of Fame, is an example of the elvish humour of Chaucer. In Troilus and Cresseide, Chaucer creates the character of Pandarus, who is a masterpiece of delightful humour. Pandarus is Chaucer's Falstaff, a great comic creation. Pandarus, 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 and Falstaff, Falstaff. The Canterbury Tales, the most matured and varied work of the poet, reveals his gift of humour in all its amplitude and variety. The jolly band of pilgrims with the merry host of Tabard Inn constitutes the most hilarious and the most uproarious company ever assembled at the hostelry, the Tabard Inn. Most of these portraits are enlivened by humorous touches, and this pageant of many pilgrims lives vividly in memory. With deft light touches of sly humour, He has fixed them in the canvas of the mind with their features clearly lined. The variety of humor is well noticed in the humorous delineation of the various pilgrims. There is the light-hearted touch of sly humorist when Chaucer characterizes the nun, a prioress. He makes a sly dig at her tenderness when he says that she was so charitable and so tender-hearted that she would weep if she saw a mouse caught in a trap. End of page 22, now page 23. Though a prioress, she indulged in love-making. About her arm was a coral rosary, the larger deeds of green, upon which was hung a brooch of shining gold, on which was engraved the motto, Amor Vinuit Omnia. His humor is so sly that we cannot be sure that whether the poet is joking or not. The poet says about the prioress, full wheel she sung the service divine, it tuned in her nose fell seemingly. She would weep if that she sought a moose caught in a trap, if it were dead or bleed. The humour in the case of the clerk of Oxford is kindly and patronizing. The horse of the clerk of Oxford was as lean as a rake, and his little outer coat was threadbare. He was a scholar in shreds, and above all, he loved to learn and teach. Quote, but albeit he was a philosopher, yet had he but little gold in coffer. Chaucer's humour becomes broad and semi-farcical when he describes the wife of Bath. All her life she was a worthy woman. She had 505 husbands at Chaucer's door. Chaucer's humour becomes broad and semi-farcical when he describes the wife of Bath. All her life she was a worthy woman. She had 5 husbands at Chaucer's door because other company in her youth. She was too gap-toothed. Could she laugh and talk in company? Love and its remedies she knew all about. Such was the wife of Bath. Chaucer has presented her in a broad and semicircle facet humorous touches. Quote, in fellowship we would know that she laughed at a carp of remedies of love she knew none, for she could of that art the old dance. Chaucer's humour became little coarse and and rough when he presents the miller and the reeve. He hits the hypocritical reeve. Quote, his lord well could be he pleasant subtly to Eve and lean him of his own good, and have a thank and yet a gone and hood. There is a broad current of fun in the free course adventures related by the miller, the reeve, and the sailor. Their humour is rough and roguish, and whirls us off our feet. The satirical tone of Chaucer's humour is well presented in the characters of the monk, the friar, and the franklin. The friar and the franklin, the pardoner of the midsummer. These ecclesiastical characters have been satirically pictured through even in the satirical vein there is the absence of the gall and venom which we notice in Langland. Abarpochi. The satirical tone of Chaucer's humour is well presented in the characters of the monk, the friar, the franklin, the pardoner, and the midsummer and the summoner. These ecclesiastical characters have been satirically pictured, though even in the satirical vein there is the absence of the Paul Goom satiric gall and venom which we notice in the Leland friar. The friar had married off many a woman and many a young woman, and yet he was noble pillar of his order. It accorded not a man of his importance to have acquaintance with sick lepers, but to have dealings with the rich folk and sellers of victual. The franklin was a pleasure seeker. He was ever wont to live in pleasure, for he was the very son of Epicurus. His bread and his wine were ever alike of the best. Never were a man's wine vaults better stored. The pardoner was a gull. With flattering deceit and tricks, he made the parson and the people his dupes. He sang merrily to win his silver. There is the presence of ironic humour when the poet gives the description of Madame Eglantine's French. And French she spake full fair and fetisly after the school of Strafford at Boy, but French of Paris was to higher unknown. Chaucer's remark about the doctor of physic are equally ironical, for gold in physic is a cordial, therefore he loved gold in special. There is the ironic tone in the ridicule of the knight's exploits. This undertone of humour is presented in the description of the knight and his exaggerated description of the distant places visited by him in the course of the holy campaigns, as in Alexandria, Prussia, Lithuania, Russia, Italia, and Levant. From the manner of Chaucer's narration, it appears that he is ridiculing in an uncanny manner of the most popular of the romancers, which gave alluringly charming accounts of the hero's exploits. Chaucer's humour is all pervasive, and there is a subtle touch of humour even in the presentation of the parson and the ploughman. In short, Chaucer's humour is wide and sweeping, and ranges from the finest delicate shades of good-natured shyness to downright jokes and ridicule, which raise an irresistible laughter. There is humour also in the general plan and setting of the Canterbury Tales. The broad and boisterous Harry Billy, the lordly host of Tabard, as the commander of his merry and motley regiment of pilgrims, has all his tact and authority, to keep them in order and save them from fighting. The set of pilgrims on the way are like members of the crew of Comus, 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 than holy pilgrims. They provide a humorous spectacle of humanity on the move as we meet them in their journey. As the cavalcade pursues its course, Chaucer shows the pilgrims calling to each other, criticizing each other. End of page 23.